Welcome back to Captiol Report After Hours. I was watching on television last week a hearing in Congress involving hacking into U.S. elections and everything cybersecurity. So I figured, what better opportunity to get my friend Art House, who is Connecticut's chief cybersecurity risk officer, and many, many moons ago, chief of staff to Abraham Ribicoff, way back when you were a child, probably, huh?
Well, a little older.
He was a prodigy.
A little older than that.
He was a chief of staff prodigy.
All right, so let's get some Connecticut stuff out of the way first. And the Russians tried to hack into the election. They said they hacked 20 elections, states around the union. Connecticut being one of them. I mean, how far did they get here in Connecticut?
Well, they didn't get in layman's terms. When we got the notification from the feds that a certain protocol had been attempted in several states, we went back and checked and found that Connecticut's firewalls and protocols had eliminated, so it never got through. This is the security boundary that we set up in the state, and it worked.
But they try all the time, don't they? They're knocking on our doors a lot.
Well, look, there are 4.8 billion connection attempts between the state and outside sources each month. 2 billion of those are blocked. So now, who's in those 2 billion? Some are spam, some are phishing, some are attempts to insert malware, some are attempts to go to malicious websites. So there's a high volume of connection attempts, and about 40% of them are prevented. How much of those are from foreign states and so forth? We really don't know. We wouldn't have known in this case, except we went back and checked, found out that yes, it was there and the system worked.
I think what was interesting, before you took this job, you were over at Pura, basically heading up the regulatory agency that regulates our utilities, and before you set up a plan in Connecticut to actually review that, because there's a lot of vulnerabilities, they say, about our oil, our gas and our utilities, right?
Absolutely. Connecticut was the first state in the country to set up a system by which there would be an annual review of cybersecurity threats to our public utilities, gas, electricity, and water. It will be done by 4 state officials and will use a standard that the utilities accept. And I think, credit to Governor Malloy, announced it and gave it the political support to make it a success, and the legislative leaders backed it up. We completed the first one in 2017, and we're starting the next one very soon.
Can I ask a question about, so on the news all the time, we hear all these, and it's part of the Russia investigation that they've tried to hack into our system.
Yeah.
Maybe a naive question. What would actually happen if they got in? Like, what
does that mean?
What would they actually do? Do they manipulate results? Do they negate votes? Like, what would happen? What's the big concern? I mean, obviously not good, but what actually happens if they get in?
Good question, because there are 2 concerns here. One is that you actually penetrate a voting system and somehow manipulate the electronic results. Now, in Connecticut, we have paper ballots.
Right.
So if there's ever a question, you can go back and just count the ballots. The second part, which, and thanks for the question, I think is far more important, is this whole effort to distort news, fake news. They did it for take a knee or not take a knee. They put on support. They're doing it right now.
They're doing
Florida,
it now with
Florida.
Yeah, I just was hearing about that.
Absolutely. They don't care one side or the other. What they're trying to do is to sow dissent
and chaos
into the American
and actually
system.
create physical change in the voting instead of just actually going in there and having fake votes, fake numbers. It's changing the minds of people with fake information.
Why do you know so much about this?
I was going to ask right now that you brought it up. So you're telling us that Connecticut did a great job with the firewall, just like the DNC was unable to do.
Well, look, you never declare victory. I'm saying we take this cybersecurity very seriously in Connecticut, and in this instance, they tried and it failed. Never say you're secure, because somebody's going to be knocking on your door every hour.
It's a changing, it's an evolving goal.
It never
ends.
Your opinion, one of the big debates is going to be whether or not Facebook is really going to be declared as a platform the way they want to be, or if they're actually a media company, because then they'll have different rules on what news they're actually putting out to kind of combat a lot of the fake news. So what's your position? Do you think Facebook should be considered a media company or just a platform, the way they're classified now?
I think they and Twitter and everybody else own some responsibility. When things are being posted, where do they come from? This current botnets attack, in which there are all kinds of messages. I could show you the building in St. Petersburg where a lot of this is derived and is being manufactured and put on American websites on both sides of the issue. It is an attack. Director of National Intelligence Coates this past week said the Russians are attacking the United States and they plan to do it in the next election.
And yet the president has nothing to say about this.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, are you frustrated when you hear him say that he doesn't believe that?
Well, I'm extremely frustrated. Look, one of the things you didn't say, I was in the Obama administration in...
We were getting to that, Art.
Well, okay, but I mean, yes, am I frustrated? I'm frustrated because I was in intelligence with the Director of National Intelligence. The term started by calling intelligence community members Nazis. And there are 100,000 Americans who work in intelligence. They work just like FBI agents, the police, and first responders do. They don't like that. Secondly, when you report something with a high level of confidence, it means you saw it happen. I have high confidence that this person robbed the store because I walked in and saw the gun in one hand, the cash in the other. They reported with high confidence that Russia had meddled in the election. And the president dismissed it right out of hand.
Well, let's talk some national news about security clearances.
Okay.
We hear that all the time, right? 700,000 people waiting on backlogs, people in the White House on temporary security clearance. They say it takes a year. You had your top secret, right? Well, how long did it take you?
Well, it was interesting because when Obama became president, he and DNI Blair decided, how long does it take? Want to find this out because there's a backlog. And I was used as the test. They called and said, all right, if this were an emergency, how long would it take? It actually took 1 week for the FBI to do the clearance. They ran all over Connecticut.
They didn't talk to me, Art.
Well, thank goodness. And I was adjudicated the following Monday. So 10 days is the amount of time they decided it could take if you dropped everything and made a case of it. You do that with White House staff, by the way. You come in, you put them at the head of the line.
Especially high-level staff,
especially
like
high-level
Kushner
staff.
And
the problem is
Rob Porter.
The problem is not the amount of time. The problem is the FBI said these people are not worthy of security clearance.
Right.
I was astounded that there's a person running around the White House seeing top secret stuff that does not have a security clearance. And when you say there are dozens, I think Senator Blumenthal is absolutely right. Who are they and what are they doing?
But I believe a lot of the confusion also is that people think that they get a report back and say this person has clearance or this person doesn't. They basically give the report that says this is what's in the person's background, and the White House has ultimate discretion on who they give the clearance to. So a lot of a lot of the interim, like they had already been given the report according to the testimony this week, and for a while they knew what was actually in that report, but then they were still having people be around classified information.
The FBI will determine whether you pass your background check or not. There's a national office that does that. Two people, the president and the director of national intelligence, have the right to waive intelligence.
Right, which is why the Rob Porter had that position.
And ordinarily, I've only seen it done for a day. If this guy's a CEO of a company and there's something dangerous happening and I'm the president of the DNI, I can give you a one-day clearance and tell you what's happening. To have somebody come on board a staff for month after month and continue to work in classified information without clearance.
And what kind of papers is he seeing and handing to the president?
Well, he has the right to read things like the president's daily intelligence briefing, for example.
Which the president, I believe, gets verbally, not in writing.
Right, well, somebody's got to read it because the president apparently doesn't read it.
Unless his name is in it.
My point is, there's a lot of top secret information, obviously, goes to the president. And if you are not cleared and you are close to the president working on his business, you can see it. That, I have never, ever heard of that happening before.
All right, so let's have the out question here. How safe are we in Connecticut? How safe are our systems? How much more hardening do we need to do? What challenges await the next governor to harden the systems more?
Well, no one in the United States is safe. Let's just start with that. The Governor Malloy decided to have a cybersecurity strategy, announced it last July, and we're now coming out with an action plan for state government, municipal, private business, higher ed, and law enforcement. So we're out in front in this effort in Connecticut. We are a leading state. That said, no one is safe. So we're doing a very good job. But that very good job is constantly being challenged all the time.
Should I take my computer camera?
None of us can sleep tonight.
All right, guys, we'll have to leave it there. Art House, thanks for joining us. We'll keep us safe. See you next week.